It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Locked On Lakers podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin. I'm joined by Pete Zayas. Pete, how was your Thanksgiving? Did you have a good holiday weekend?
It was good, man. I was named Western Conference Podcaster of the Week, so I'm pretty excited. How about you?
Oh, man. The Carmelo Anthony rehabilitation tour has been incredible, I guess.
Hey, man, I know it irritates you, and no, Carmelo Anthony was not the best player in the Western Conference last week, but give a nod to a future Hall of Famer. I don't mind it too much. It is on the sentimental side. I will not argue it on merit, but I don't have as big of an issue with it as you do.
I'm really excited for Kareem to win next week.
It's gonna be Jamal Crawford.
Well, Jim, all right, I'm not going to get myself in trouble. I'm
sorry. You asked me a very nice question, and I just spiked it back at you, just right? How was your Thanksgiving?
Much like Carmelo Anthony spikes winning back at his team's face. No, I had a good weekend. I had a fun long weekend. I at least had my first long holiday weekend in a long time that I didn't have to work and wasn't too nervous about making ends meet despite not working. So
I'm jealous, man. I had microwave pasta and a variety of lunch meats and cheeses on Thanksgiving, working the entire freaking day. So it was good. I kind of got obsessed with that Luca piece I was working on. So it was, of my own volition, but still, I was like, damn. At the end of the day, I was like, I could have really gone for some stuffing and all the good stuff today.
What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Stuffing's probably my favorite. I like pecan pie.
Do you like pineapple in your stuffing?
I do not like what?
I don't think anybody likes pineapple in their stuffing, to be clear.
I do think you're right about prime rib, though, because I would eat prime rib any time of year. Mm-hmm. This is the only time of year we eat turkey for dinner, really, ever. And so, that kind of tells you how good we think it is on a normal day. But some prime rib with all that. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Dark meat turkey's okay. If you have a really good gravy, dark meat turkey's good. Mm. And then, the nice thing about Thanksgiving food is it's kind of like neutral colors in clothing, in that they can all kind of blend together. So the best, my favorite meal isn't even the Thanksgiving meal that takes place on Thanksgiving Day. It's actually the next day when you can throw all that stuff in a bowl and completely ham out
and just grub on it. Yeah. No, the Thanksgiving leftovers are good, man. I missed that this year for sure.
Yeah. So that's usually the direction I go in, but actually, this year for Christmas, I'm going to, over the next month, I have to learn how to cook a good prime rib for Christmas dinner. We don't have one of those rotating things that you put in your oven.
Rotisserie?
Yeah, we don't have so we'll see how this goes, but that's my task for the next couple of months. I guess we should talk about the Lakers.
We should, man. They lost a game, and now we're back to August food takes.
According to Twitter, the Lakers are a lottery team again.
That one had been sneaking up on them for a while.
I think that's where we're kind of at. Like anybody who paid attention, who has paid attention to the Lakers, should have probably seen that coming.
Yeah.
Especially I thought it was actually going to happen against Washington. Mm-hmm. But they came out for some reason and were just really hate Mo Wagner, apparently.
They actually sucked pretty bad the first 5 minutes of that game, which is not unusual during the 10 game winning streak. They could just turn it on and just overwhelm when they wanted to. And they finally played a team in Dallas that punched back, right? So between building up bad habits over 3 weeks, where the last time they played a good team was against Toronto on a Sunday. They lost to them too, right? So between that long break, between getting away with things that you normally wouldn't be able to get away with in a 1 p.m. start time, not a surprise it worked out the way they did. I'm really interested to see how they respond. They've said that they don't want to lose 2 games in a row. Well, the second game is at Denver, a very good team in Denver that is very good at home. So it'll be curious if they're able to pull out a win like that. That's okay, that's a sign of a good team. If they're focused on we're not going to lose 2 in a row, and they do, that says something about them as well, what they're capable of. So this is a game coming up against Denver that I put more stock in than most games. Yeah,
it's one of those games you had that circled at the beginning of the season. On the calendar, and then now we are there, and you've now highlighted the game, you've underlined the game. It's one of those games. So I'm really I actually kind of rolled my eyes at their quotes about how they don't want to lose back-to-back games or whatever. Danny Green said that they have to put forth more consistent effort. And I kind of rolled my eyes. I wrote the article for Silver Screen and Roll in response to that, and it was just kind of no, I mean, let's not go overboard correcting in the other direction, because I actually like the idea that they were trying to figure out how much energy they had to put forth in order to continue winning. Over the course of an 82 game season. Tryhards, everybody loves the Boston Celtics and the Marcus Smarts and the Brad Stevens of the world, who aren't Lakers fan, obviously. Nobody actually likes the Celtics, but the idea of a tryhard team that every single night actually really puts forth 100% maximum energy. That's cool in concept, but then you get to the playoffs and you're like, oh shit, we have to hit another gear after this. And
sure. I mean, look, it would be great if the Lakers could play their asses off for 48 minutes a game for 82 games and into the playoffs. It's just not how it works.
That's not how it works.
It's like asking a marathon runner to sprint the whole time.
Right.
It's just not how it works. So there are teams that are going to pick up more regular season wins that really aren't contenders in the playoffs. And I do see Boston as one of those teams. And that's fine and dandy to be able to play at or near your best for 82, but that doesn't necessarily translate to later in the season. That's why there are certain games circled on the schedule, as you said, especially on the heels of a loss at home against Dallas, where this game against Denver is this is one of maybe 10 to 15 games this season that are really I want to see how they perform in this one. And really, opening night was the first one of this season for me.
And they lost that one, so we'll see how that goes. Let's take a quick second here. We were supposed to open the mailbag. That's how this episode is going to go. We're going to open the mailbag and get into your guys' questions. But, sometimes stuff happens in a regular season, and you have to react to it. And that's what the opening segment to the show was. So when we come back, we are going to open up that mailbag. I have to check on Avery because she was screaming a second ago. So we'll see. Did you pick that up? Did you hear
I did not. I did not. I'm just hoping my dogs don't wild out downstairs like they have been. So recording this one on the edge, man.
Pete and I are just sitting here juggling stuff, and hopefully we're able to.
Hi, I'm Gavin Shaw.
And I'm Alex Wolf, and we're the hosts of Locked On Knicks. Gavin, you're 6'3" and about 90 pounds soaking wet. How do you shop for clothes?
Well, Alex, it's always been a challenge. That is, until I discovered Indochino. Indochino gives you a spectacular in-store fitting, or you can feel free to take your measurements at home using their handy online guide. They allow you to personalize every aspect of your suit, shirt, jacket, or chinos to your precise measurements. And you can choose everything from your lapel to a custom monogram.
Best of all, your custom-tailored garments only take 2 weeks to show up on your doorstep. But don't take our word for it. Knicks Rookie of the Year contender R.J. Barrett was wearing Indochino on draft night when he turned heads with that eye-catching pink suit. If you want to look like RJ, he even has his own custom line of fabrics and linings available for purchase right now.
Start your style upgrade now with $30 off your total purchase of $399 or more at Indochino.com when entering Locked On at checkout. Plus, shipping is free.
That's Indochino.com, promo code Locked On for $30 off your total purchase of $399 or more. An incredible deal for made-to-measure clothing.
You really have no excuse anymore to wear clothing that doesn't fit.
Your team.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Bucks.
Locked On Raptors.
Locked On Nuggets podcast.
Every day.
On Monday.
It's Taco Tuesday!
On this Wednesday.
Thursday looks great.
Starting this Friday.
When it comes to the biggest stories.
The leading storyline to watch for.
A couple things from the preseason have kind of piqued my interest even more in terms of how good this team can be.
Draymond spoke with the media after the game, and I thought he had the right outlook when it comes to this.
No, that, means precisely nothing in the grand scheme of winning a championship, I guess, but...
You need to be Locked On.
That is LOCKEDON.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
In the Apple Podcast app.
Google Podcasts.
Spotify.
It's all coming up on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. Ow!
Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Pete. Calbo248 writes, would you trade Kuzma for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Ooh, yes, I would. Yep.
Yeah, I think Shai is probably the better overall prospect, right? I think he's like a couple of years younger, and then all of that. But I also think like a good Kuzma is probably more valuable than a good Shai.
That's interesting because that's my rationale for preferring Shai, is that I think a good Shai at that position is more valuable than a good Kuz, right? Like, I think our front court's pretty well set. We could use a guard that brings what SGA brings to the table.
Yeah, this isn't me like crapping on Shai. I just think in the NBA, the more wings you have, the more valuable, playable wings you have, the better you're going to be roster-wise, and I think that's why I'd prefer Kuzma over Shai.
That's fair. We need Kuz to become a valuable, playable wing then, if that's the case. I'm actually working on a piece for The Athletic on him that'll be out on Tuesday.
Wow, you hate Kuzma, huh?
I hate Kuzma. No, he's trying to be a good soldier, and he's losing kind of his essence as a bucket getter in the process of that. Like, there are a couple of plays that I'll have in that piece where, like, he's not even looking to score, man. And that's what he does, right? Like, he's trying to, like, fit in and make the extra pass and do all of that. But, like, the reality is we need him to be kind of our Lou Williams. It's a different position, goes about it in a different way, but same, you know what I mean? Like, he
needs to approach the game that way, and he isn't.
Right. That's exactly what it is. And Frank Vogel needs to do some more things to get him open as well. So it's a two-pronged issue, and I think it's one of the more important things for the Lakers to be able to address, because LeBron and AD are going to provide what they provide. But that third guy is what puts us over the top, and Kuz is the guy who's way more, capable of doing that than anybody else on the roster.
You know what the Lakers could do is they could just acquire Player of the Week Carmelo Anthony and be okay. Big Fridge 21 writes, "Hey Pete and Anthony, love the content. It's even more fun to listen to when the Lakers are good. It's more fun to talk about them when the Lakers are good."
No kidding.
My question is, as students of the game and students of the NBA, how do you balance listening to NBA pods and reading stories to gain knowledge, but still being able to come up with your own unique opinion? And based on that, who are your favorite NBA writers and podcasters?
So I read and listen to very, very, very little content.
Yeah,
in
you
general.
and I are.
And that's how I'm able to maintain unique opinions because I have no idea what everybody else is talking about.
Yeah.
That in all, so that is true. It's also, I've got so many, things to work on every week. Like I wasn't working through Thanksgiving and eating microwave pasta for my health, right? It's like shit needs to get done and I got to get it done. And so I just don't have time really for it. So it's been fun, doing the general NBA stuff for The Athletic, in that I get to kind of parachute into somebody's world and like Luka, for example, and be like, how can I achieve understanding on this guy working on, in over 5 days? And it's different with the Lakers. When I work on those pieces, I'm so immersed in the world. I know it on a day-to-day basis. I know all the context. I got a piece on Markelle Fultz coming up, a piece on the Toronto Raptors coming up, and I'm not immersed in those worlds. So I have to do that over the course of 5 days. And in the process of that, I don't really have too much time for anything else. Do you do a little more consumption of no?
No.
that head shake won't show up on the pod.
No, this is going to sound awful, but I actually get bored really quickly with basketball talk and sports talk in general. My favorite, actually, most of the people who are listening to this right now probably know this about me. My favorite sports content is the Dan Le Batard Show. Mm-hmm. And it's not really sports content.
Sure, right. It's kind of a vague background for
the like thing. They use sports as a conversation starter, but for the most part, it's whatever. So right now, the podcasts that I listen to most are probably Le Batard, and then I'm rewatching all the Star Wars movies. So I'm listening to binge mode Star Wars as I'm going along with that with Jason and Mal, and I would actually probably be a better writer / podcaster if I read or listened to more podcasts more often. But I also, though, think like the tone of this show, the tone of this, like the tone that I've always kind of been going for has been be kind of a casual conversation that you and I can have, or at least can feel like a casual conversation, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. I want it to seem as if, or the people who are listening to the show, I want them to feel like they're overhearing you and I talking at a bar,
right?
And if I get too far into the weeds, if I get too far into the details, it no longer becomes a casual show. And the other thing, too, is that, like, most of the stuff that I am talking about, it all comes down to, like, are my opinions enhanced by the conversation I'm hearing elsewhere? And I don't think normally it is. And Twitter, honestly, Twitter is the closest thing to, checking out reading and
sure.
and kind of rounding out my takes more than, reading or listening to any kind of sports podcast. Because, like, at the end of the day, my opinions are going to be what my opinions are. And whether or not I'm listening to, like, Locked On Kings on a random Thursday I don't think that's going to make me a better Lakers podcaster.
Yeah, in the whole process of trying to parachute into different people's worlds, I will consume and kind of check out like what the temperature is of that fan base. And as you were discussing, saying on this show, I can kind of pull us into the weeds, right, into the geekier side of things, and that's probably good, right?
It makes the show better, right? on when you're on the show.
But for me, I guess what I do spend my time doing. So my North Star is to try to produce the best content that I possibly can, whether it's here with my LFR stuff, with Athletic, all of that is like, how can I make this? And then it becomes like, well, what does that mean? Is it the most well received? Or is it something that I believe in? And the older I get, the longer I do this, it's more in the like, no, I believe in this, right? And sometimes, like, I did this video on how the Lakers beat Miami's 2-3 zone, right? Because I was like, hey, this is something I'm not going to get to cover very often, is zone principles in the NBA. And then I never expected it to get popular. Now it's got 350,000 views on YouTube or something. It caught fire because you never know.
Sick humble brag, bro.
No. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying that, like, if your North Star is like what is going to be popular, like you don't really know what that's going to be, right? So just do what you believe in, and sometimes that's going to work out. And so in that process, I actually listen to a lot of music, and I watch a lot of historical documentaries. That's kind of what I'm doing to decompress. I've gotten into The Office.
Big Game of Thrones fan.
And I. Yeah. Well, yeah. I've gotten into The Office and Parks and Rec over the last few months. And so Jeannie and I will just like binge that if I need an hour or two off, late at night. So it's more like, what can I get out of music or other areas that I can kind of apply? Like I love watching The Office. I love watching The Office to kind of like watch it from the perspective of the writers who wrote it. Like, oh, you put Dwight in this circumstance with Pam, and these two aspects of their personality end up mixing so that like Dwight is really kind to Pam in this circumstance where you wouldn't expect that, right? And so I try to view it from the content creator's standpoint of how did they put this together? And I learn a lot from music and from TV shows and movies, a lot more, I think, than I would from other podcasts, because it's just a different way of looking at producing content.
Yeah, I mean, that approach to it, I'll be watching other content and find some lesson or some moral of whatever story I happen to be paying attention to there, and I'll bring that into my show as a conversation starter. And I think because the cool thing about when you're talking about music, you're talking about The Office, especially Thrones, really popular parts of pop culture, like that stuff that everybody has probably had some experience with, whether they liked it or disliked it or whatever. Although if you dislike The Office, like there's something wrong with you on a human level. And I think when you The Office is a really good example of, hey, can you bring a lesson from The Office and can you relate that to the Lakers? How well can you do that? That's going to be a conversation starter and a podcast topic or a topic of your writing that people are really going to relate to, because you're bringing two things that they love, The Office and the Lakers, to the forefront of what they want to digest anyway as podcast listeners or as readers or as Laker fans in general. So this is a fascinating topic. I actually want to come back to this. Let's take a quick second. When we come back, we're going to come back to the idea of like where does inspiration strike us? So coming back to where we were a second ago, like for me personally, the people or the podcasts that I grew up saying, okay, if I do a show, I want it to mirror some of this content. So for me, it was Bill Simmons. I really enjoyed Mark Heisler's writing when I was a kid. Mike Bresnahan, I liked the way that he covered the team back in the day. When I thought I wanted to be a beat reporter. And then again, Levitard, like just being able to poke fun at all of this was a big inspiration to me. What are your inspirations? I guess it's like Chick Hearn is like the number one inspiration for you, right?
Yeah, Chick Hearn's inspiration. Again, I really go to music a lot. David Bowie and Prince. I really kind of gravitate toward solo artists. I've really gotten into Billie Eilish's music lately. I think she's phenomenal. So people who are kind of...
You should have been a Trailblazers fan.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Because you like blazing trails.
I should have seen that coming, and I didn't. Anyway... Yeah, I look to music more than anything. And yes, Chick in the basketball world, Chick. Darius is a big influence of mine, even though, we work together. But he's he's Lakers Twitter's dad, basically.
Yeah, so he's the blog father.
That's right. So, Yeah, man. But I try to, the older I get and the longer I do this, I try to follow this stuff. Like, I think this is interesting. And if I think it's interesting, I'm going to give it my best effort. And if I give it my best effort, people tend to react well to it. So that's really the moment I'm trying to achieve, is just like, when I'm like, oh, I got to stay up till 5, 6 a.m. working on this because I feel so inspired to work on it. So it's really a matter of just connecting with whatever it is I'm working on. How about you?
Darius is. It's actually interesting that you bring up Darius. I worked with Darius. I was at Forum Blue and Gold for like 6 months or so, and he was my editor for a while. And that was probably the best content I ever produced. Was working with Darius. Now with Silver Skin and Roll, it's more of like a write what you have to get your paycheck kind of thing. Seth, I hope you're not listening.
That was very honest, Anthony. I respect that.
Yeah, but like when I was writing with Darius, I would love to have Darius on the show and have him like talk about the process of hiring me. It was literally like 37 emails that I sent him. Hey, you asked for help on the internet, and I applied. I was wondering if you got my application. I haven't heard from you. I saw somebody else writing something for your site, and did you already fill the role? This was back when I was just leaving Rant Sports, and I really respected Darius's writing. I wanted to be one of the things that in this industry, I think my strongest capability is kind of identifying talent in other people. So I thought from the get-go that you were crazy talented. I thought from the get-go that Harrison was really talented. Obviously, Darius was really talented back then. So I just said, like, those are the three people that I want to. Those are the three people's coattails that I was going to ride, and then eventually kind of chart out my own course, and that's kind of where this wound up. Was I learned enough from Darius, and I learned enough from Harrison, and from you, and in conversation that we had, that this show figured out its tone, and we are where we are now. So yeah, but nowadays there aren't many sources of content that I draw inspiration from this show. It's developed its own voice now, and I actually think that's a great attribution to the people who listen to the show. Like, you and I were laughing before we went on the air today at how many questions that we have to try to answer to get through today's show, and this show has kind of developed its own voice, in no small part because the people who listen to the show prefer a certain type of voice from the show.
And how many of those questions have we gotten through?
3. All right, let's get to
Exactly. Let's move it along.
Yeah,
let's move it along, Fred. Come on.
The next question here comes from Laker Nation 16. Love the podcast and all of the content. I hope I'm not speaking for myself when I say your annoyance of Rondo annoys me. You choose every opportunity to fire a joke at him or Kuz. I don't get it. We're winning. Let's enjoy this until he actually loses us a game. Enjoy. Other than that, great pod. Can I rant about Rondo for a second?
Please. It's all you.
Anybody who actually thought that dude was an NBA player, like, come on. We've seen this now for multiple years that he isn't an NBA player. And now, does he have value on the Lakers roster because of the dearth or dearth? Stealth. He's like stealth bad. He's a stealth tanker. No, but the dearth of other players who have his skill set, then yeah, he actually does present value because of that, because the Lakers, in my opinion, Rob Pelinka, kind of screwed up in this respect this aspect of building the Lakers roster. But anybody who actually thought that Rajon Rondo should be contributor to a title contending, if not title favorite. Like, I don't know if we've been watching the same game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think he's been fine. I don't think that he's, let me ask you this: why Rondo as opposed to like Quinn Cook or Troy Daniels, or Lord knows he's not the only guy who. What's that?
Those guys aren't playing.
So do you think that we are losing games because of Rondo now because he's playing minutes?
Well, they've lost one game out of their last 12. So, no. But does he make winning harder? Yeah, I actually think he takes away from winning games. Now, again, so basically all I'm asking is for the Lakers to employ a point guard who does the things that Rondo is capable of doing, but also isn't a disaster in the ways that Rondo is. And I think, given what Rondo is making right now, I don't think, and the fact that he's signed next year too, I think the Lakers could employ a point guard who does those things that isn't Rajon Rondo.
I think the point of the offseason that they were at when Kawhi made his decision, there weren't really any guards on the market. He is signed to a vet minimum deal.
2-year deal. Player option.
It's a 2-year deal with a player option, but it's still a vet minimum, right? Mm-hmm. And yes, they need a better player than Rondo, but that can be said of Troy Daniels and of Quinn Cook. They just don't have the guys, and considering the circumstances of the offseason, they didn't have. Yeah, would it have been better if it's Trey Burke or someone like that instead of Rondo? Yeah, probably, maybe. Mm-hmm. But is there that big of a discrepancy between a guy like Rondo and who is? I don't think so. I don't think it's that big of a difference.
I think there's a big difference between Trey Burke and Rajon Rondo. The thing that annoys me about Rondo is he's cited as this veteran savvy, NBA savvy veteran, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think that the narrative around Rondo and the perception of Rondo is what actually pisses you off way more than Rondo does.
Yeah, no, if Rondo existed just in a vacuum, I think I would be okay with it. But the problem is that not only does he not exist in that vacuum, but the narrative around him kind of frames the way that he's used on this team, and that's the part that really bothers me. That sports is a meritocracy. The thing that draws me to sports,
we don't have an alternative. The way he's used on this team. Who?
Caruso.
Quinn Cook. Caruso's getting plenty of minutes, man. Caruso's getting 25 minutes.
All of Rondo's minutes should go to Caruso. Every single one of them.
How do you do that with him coming off of the bench?
Well, they both come off of the bench. So just give Rondo Caruso's minutes.
But they play together a good amount of time. That backcourt combination has been Caruso and Rondo.
They shouldn't, though.
And so how do you give Caruso Rondo's minutes when Caruso's already on the court, playing a different spot, right? It'd have to be Cook or Daniels or something like that. But those two are playing 12 to 15 minutes a night together.
Part of the issue that the Lakers are running into is that Bradley isn't healthy.
Yes.
So I'm interested to see what the team looks like once Bradley is healthy again. But once Bradley is healthy, I don't think Rondo should play. That it's just that give Bradley the minutes that he's playing alongside Alex Caruso. And I just think the creativity that you lose offensively is worth it for how much better the defense gets when Rondo is not out there.
I don't have an issue with that. It's just that Rondo's availability and Bradley's availability have not matched up this season. Yeah. So when they're both healthy, if Rondo's still getting 20 minutes a night, I'm fine. I can get behind your argument on that. Just right now with Bradley out, I don't see how you do this without playing an even inferior player to them in Daniels or Quinn Cook. So yeah. Once Bradley gets healthy, I think maybe we revisit this.
Yeah, the strongest aspect of your point is that Troy Daniels and Quinn Cook have both been disasters.
Right.
It's that you have to play somebody there, and in this case, it happens to be Rajon Rondo. All right. Let's go. Jesse, the Laker fan. We'll answer this for the last question. Got to 4 questions. What's up, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic week. Scratch that the Lakers are 11 games over 500, so I know you're having fun. Question: what is your take on the camera angle I have been seeing in NBA, like national NBA games? It looks weird. Maybe I'm just not used to it. Question 2, I know it won't happen, but would you rather have an Anthony Davis and Giannis combination or Anthony Davis and Doncic conversation or combination for the Lakers in their future? So let's go. Question 1: have you liked the different camera angle thing?
I like it, but I see why people don't. I would love, like, TV needs to become more interactive. I could rant for days, and we've already done this earlier in the show about how we think things should be.
We've ranted for days on this very podcast.
We absolutely have. I think the TV should be more interactive in terms of basketball broadcasts. I would love to have a selection to be able to, and especially seeing the spectrum footage of all of these different angles and watching like the whole game through that angle, or watching parts that maybe don't make it TV. Like, I would pay a monthly subscription to be able to watch a no broadcasters, just hear the squeaking of the shoes on the court, hear the fans in the crowd, make it feel like you're at a game, right? Give me that sonic experience along with the, different camera angles to switch to aside from just the broadcast version. So I would love for them to actually have 2 versions of the broadcast, and one maybe be a premium version. That's a way to increase revenue too in a league that's trying to figure out how to make money when more people are cutting the cable, or cutting the cord. So yeah, I like it. In part because I watch just so much tape that, oh, hey, that's new. It's really appealing to me. But I can understand why people are like, I just want to watch the damn game the way I've always watched it. Where do you stand on that?
So I think football actually has a bigger problem with this than basketball. Basketball, so there's never a moment when you're watching a basketball game where the game that you're watching, like half of the game is being missed. Whereas, like, you watch a football game, and more often than not, you're missing all of the secondary play. Like, you can't see how certain receivers are getting open against certain cornerbacks, and how safeties are rotating over to make up for that and stuff. You don't see that in a football broadcast. So I think you have a bigger problem with that in football than you do in basketball. But do you remember Spectrum actually did this? Spectrum, when it was
this was years ago, right?
Yeah, Spectrum was just launching, and they had a channel that was devoted, like a courtside seat channel, and like, give me that. And actually, the channels that should actually really do this, should actually really look into this, is the HBO and Showtime or whatever, because you could allow cussing.
Yeah, there's you caught LeBron on the hot mic yesterday, right?
Yeah,
where he was giving Danny Green
jogging.
Right, I love that, and so many people would. Right, like, I understand you can't have that on a regular broadcast. You want kids to be the next generation. Right, I get all that, but
although I think in general, let's ease off. Like cussing, come on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. These are very kind of antiquated ideas in the first place. But I'm not going to push back too hard on the idea of a network not wanting that on their air.
Well, you have FCC problems that you have to pay fines for all those things.
Right. I would love a version of that, though, where it's like adults talking about basketball, the players, LeBron is never that honest to the media. He can't be, right? No. It's not his fault. It's just a nature of that. But seeing LeBron be real, how he really felt about something in the moment, right? And just that internal team dynamic. How does Danny Green respond to that? Like, is he like, man, screw you, I was spotting up for the open three, right? Or you were laying on your back, you didn't see what I was doing. Like, that's what I would have been. I didn't entirely agree with LeBron's point on that. He just really wanted that play to work out. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That is a new way of experiencing the game. And there's so many moments, I swear, from watching these games where it's like fully from the baseline cam, even the parts that don't make the broadcast. There are so many cool moments that don't make And this is one of the things I want to, say to my bosses at Spectrum is like, you're sitting on a gold mine. This is so cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's do something with this.
Yeah.
So I see why people don't like it, but I think that there's a ton of creativity and a ton of opportunity that could be had within those spaces.
What's your favorite? Like, if you're going to a game, you could choose wherever you're going to sit. What's your favorite spot to sit at?
My favorite is right behind the bench. Mm-hmm. And it's more for
the human element.
Hearing the timeouts, just things that you would never get in watching TV. It's also hard because these MFers are so big that like you're half standing up the whole game. I've had those tickets a couple times in the row right behind them. But even then, you get a whole new appreciation for like, you see an open three, for example, on your TV. When you're in person, it's like, yeah, you're not that open, like not for a regular human, right? It looks like, oh, he's wide open on that shot. Like, no, there's like a 6'7" dude that's sprinting and
racing
jumping
at you.
Yeah, while you're doing that. And like, but that's what NBA open looks like. And then that is going to, take a leap forward in the playoffs. Like you're going to be even less open than that. So all that stuff I find super fascinating. It gets me really excited. And I want to help kind of push that forward in the genre of covering basketball whenever I can, of like, hey, let's show it from these different angles. How about you? What's your favorite spot?
So I have two answers. One is slightly above that, like lower bowl, because you have a better angle. I actually really like being behind the basket, even though the basket will sometimes kind of stop me from seeing portions of the play. I remember one game, my wife bought us tickets. My wife, Jen, you guys listening know that it's Jen. Jen bought us tickets, and we were like even with the basket. Like our noses were at basket level, and being able to see like Wesley Johnson stood out to me in that game because his head was always above the basket level. Like I can understand after watching that game, knowing how maddening he is as a basketball player, why multiple GMs thought he was worth the investment. Mm-hmm. And then it's not even pandering. I love being up in the cheap seats. It's just such a different experience up there. I love. Like, that's where you're actually going to find the actual fans, especially at a Staples Center game. Like, if you're in the lower bowl at a Lakers game, you're going to walk into, or you're going to be surrounded by a lot of, like, business meetings and people who aren't necessarily focused on the game. But when you go to a Laker game and you're up there in the cheap seats, like, that's the true fan. And you know the account on Twitter, Lakers Outsiders, right?
Of course, yeah.
I started that, and like that was literally the fan that I wanted to reach out to with Lakers Outsiders. I wanted Lakers Outsiders, and even in the show, like I wanted to get to the real fan, and the conversation that I have on this show, in large part, was, what's it like to just like sit in on a conversation that you would overhear in the cheap seats of Staples Center? And remember, Jen, this was back when Jen and I had zero money whatsoever. And she took me to a Christmas Day game against the Lakers. I've told the story a couple times or whatever. And I spent the entire game screaming at Paul Pierce. And I wasn't alone. Like I was out there. I was an echo of all of these people who hated this guy Paul Pierce, and that was the true Laker fan. And I think if you could bring the atmosphere from up top to the lower bowl of Staples Center, that's the sweet spot that you could possibly find out there watching a Laker game.
For sure.
All right. We answered 5 whole questions. So Pete and I are going to have our work cut out for us tomorrow. Thank you guys very much for your questions, though. They were good questions, though. I think they were the reason we answered so few of them was because they were such good questions. Pete and I will be back again to answer them in tomorrow's show. thank you guys very much for sending those questions in. And if you want to enjoy a really fun conversation about Alex Caruso, check out yesterday's show as well. But for now, have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
No Division I college basketball team has more NCAA national championships than, did you say UCLA? Yeah, it's UCLA. But how does this program get back to the glitz and glamour of yesteryear? Well, I invite you to check out Locked On Bruins with myself, Brian Fenley, to find out. I am also a co-host for UCLA's Learfield IMG College Radio Network, and am a national anchor for Fox Sports Radio. I say all of this to tell you that this UCLA broadcasting stuff, this is not some hobby for me. This is a lifestyle. And my ultimate goal on this podcast is to show you how first-year UCLA head coach Mick Cronin is hoping to restore this program back to the glory days and back where it belongs among the national powers in college basketball. So make this a daily part of your day with Locked On Bruins.
The Locked On Podcast Network has the ultimate NBA podcast starting 5. Starting at podcast number 1 is your favorite team's daily podcast from a local expert. Starting at the podcast number 2 is Locked On NBA, your daily 30-minute look at what happened the night before and what's upcoming. At the number 3 spot is Locked On Fantasy Basketball, the number 1 fantasy basketball show in the land. And the podcast number 4 position is Rejecting the Screen with Noah Kozlov and Adam Stanko. And finally, the big men in the middle, the unequaled Hollinger and Duncan NBA show with former NBA executive and analytics godfather John Hollinger. It's Locked On Podcast Network's NBA Podcast Ultimate Starting 5. Follow all 5 on your favorite podcast provider.